So here's another question from, well, actually, it's just an ID Swoon8. When a planet is transiting a sign that overlaps houses in your natal chart, which house is it affecting? And then there's another question from Anonymous. Hi Diana, thank you, I love your videos. Question, how would you read a planet for someone who has the same sign in two houses? Why would someone get the same sign in two houses? For example, I'm practicing making a natal chart from my roommate, maybe that is, and she has ascendant Virgo and Virgo in her second house. Since her Venus is in Virgo, what house do I assign Venus? Well, it depends which house Venus is in, because if her Virgo is in house 1 and 2, what degree is Venus? Is it in the early degrees, which puts it in house 1, or is it in the later degrees, which puts it in house 2? You see, because you have to read the planet through the house and the sign through the house. That's why astrology can be quite complex. Because there's so many variables, and I could even get more into that and talk about, different strengths according to which quadrant or which segment of the house, the first 10, the middle 10, the last 10, or even of the sign is in the first 10 of the sign, but the last 10 of the house degrees, that is. So, I mean, but in a general sense, yes, this is called intercepted signs, and this is a kind of a bit of a puzzling one, really. And we use in sun sign astrology a basic template where we do 12 equal houses. Sun sign astrology is very general in its nature, but in reality, the house system gets distorted according to where you were born. Only if you were born on the equator, or maybe in the spring or the fall, would the houses be equidistant, the same size. So some come out really small if you're born in the northern hemisphere or the southern hemisphere, and some come out really wide. And if they're really small, then one sign will squeeze into there, but it will go into the next one as well. And if they're really big, then you might get 2 signs or even 3 signs. And sometimes a sign is in a big house and it doesn't have a house cusp going through it. So therefore it doesn't have any way for its expression, or I should rephrase that, it's more difficult to express the characteristics of that sign and its ruling planet out into the world. So say it's Aries. Aries is ruled by Mars. Say Aries is sandwiched between 2 other signs in an intercepted house. So this is a very large house, right, that I'm talking about now, not a little weeny one where the Virgo was in 2. If it's in a large house, then on one side of it you've got Pisces. I don't know which way around this is going to come out, left or right, but anyway, on the one side of Aries you've got Pisces, and on the other side you've got Taurus, and Pisces and Taurus have got the line of the cusp of the house going through it, right? Say it's the 4th house. So you've got the line of the cusp of the 4th house going through Pisces, and you've got the line of the cusp of the 5th house going through Taurus. But little Aries is sandwiched in the middle with no lines going through it. So therefore it's difficult to express outwards that Mars drive energy into the world through that 4th house, right? So that might get a bit kind of, because Mars is such a hot energy, it's kind of down there in the 4th house to do with emotions. It can turn into magma, boiling magma maybe, but it's got no outlet. So what I do with that when I'm looking at the natal chart, because of course this doesn't apply to sun sign astrology because we just leave all the houses the same and 1 sign per house, but in an actual consultation with a real birth chart, which is not just the sun sign, I find where the ruler is. And for Aries, it would be Mars. So maybe Mars is, let's see, where can we go for Mars? Maybe Mars is in the 6th house. So the 6th house is about the kind of work I do, kind of methods and methodologies, and maybe health issues. And I would translate the Aries energy, which has got no outlet in that very large 4th house, as being more emphasized through what's going on in the 6th house, and then take that, you know, it's translation, really, the job of an astrologer, because you've got to translate the positions and the mathematical angles and so on, a bit like reading music off a music sheet, and make it into some sort of sound. So I take the meanings of the 6th house and I overlay them and apply them through possible manifestations through the 4th house, you see. So in the 4th house, that's about lineage and ancestry, and it might be something that comes down the line to do with health, because that's 6th house business, or to do with the type of work the person might choose, because that's 6th house business. And so by giving the person that kind of insight or peek into their inner dynamics, it might make them realize that certain inclinations or certain frustrations that they've had, they can then start to unpack that, and it can start to unfold more, maybe not through the area that the sign is in, but through the area that the ruler is in. And then, of course, if the sign is overlapping 2 houses, because the houses are really narrow, the segments are narrow, then you just get that, you don't get that blocking dynamic, you get the dynamic where that Mercury, if it's Virgo, ruled by Mercury energy is splurging out, not just through the 1st house, but also through the 2nd house, might actually get a bit drained. And also you have to track and find where Mercury sits in the chart, because that's just Mercury's sign that's sitting in the 1st and the 2nd. But where's Mercury itself? Which house is it in? You see, which sign is it in? It might be in Virgo, because often when we're born, Mercury isn't very far away. You know, it's on either side of the sun sign, or it's in the sun sign. So then you have to translate, you know, to do the translator job of what the position is with where Mercury is. So hopefully you can make some sort of sense of that. And yeah, and thank you for your question.